This is the Roger Hedgecock Show. And welcome to the Aramco Group studios here at UTTV. Today we're going to talk about a lot of things, but first up, San Diego schools go meatless Monday for our students. What? All right, we'll be back. Checking the headlines first. Let's go to San Diego First News.
An entire community is mourning the death of a 10-year-old boy who accidentally shot himself in the chest in Miramar Ranch and later died at the hospital. This morning, counselors were at Dingaman Elementary, where the boy went to school, helping parents and students cope with the tragedy. The boy was reportedly playing with a 9-year-old girl in a garage at a condominium complex on Ivy Hill Drive. Police say no adults were present when the gunshot was fired yesterday. We caught up with a mother who says gun owners have a responsibility to make sure guns are safely secured.
It's a tragedy. It's an awful accident. I can't imagine what they're going through.
The adults who live in the property are being questioned by police. One or both could face charges such as negligent storage of a firearm. New information out of Philadelphia, where at least 12 people are hurt and 2 others are trapped in the rubble of a building that collapsed early this morning. Now, the collapse happened just before 11 o'clock Eastern time and involved a sandwich shop slated for demolition, sending debris into a nearby Salvation Army store. No word on the exact cause of the collapse. The dozen of people who were hurt when the 4-story building went down were rushed to the hospital. They're said to have minor injuries. All right, the county will have plenty of low clouds this morning with sunshine to follow. Let's take a look at your 5-day forecast. Today and tomorrow, we're averaging out at 69 degrees. By Saturday, it will be in the 70s along the coast. 84 if you're inland. And take a look at Sunday. It will look pretty much the same as Saturday. If you are heading to the beach today, the water temperatures are said to be about 66 degrees with very nice sized waves. So have fun out there. We will be back in another 13 minutes with more San Diego First News.
Welcome back to the Roger Hedgecock Show here at the Aramco Group studio at UTTV. Headlines today in the UT. SD City schools to go meatless on Mondays. Now, you know, you can eat meat or not eat meat. You know, conservatives, if they don't want to eat meat, they don't eat meat. They don't force other people not to eat meat. Here are these people who want the school kids not to have meat protein on Mondays as a choice. Although the other 4 days of the week, all of the vegetarian dishes are also a choice along with the meat. Why meatless Mondays? Because of ideological people like Lawrence Hansen, professor at the UC San Diego Medical School. Turns out he's vegetarian and liberal, so he wants you to be vegetarian or your kids in school because they're going to force you to do it. By the way, they always come up with obesity on this one. We've got to fight obesity. This is the same government that took physical education, you know, PE, out of the schools and then wonders why the kids are obese. And also, if you look at the vegetarian rundown, the menu, it includes bean and cheese burritos. Yeah, have 2 or 3 of those for lunch and tell me if you're losing any weight. Give me a break. All right. In the news today, the ambassador to the United Nations, Susan Rice, is now going to move to National Security Advisor. Susan Rice, of course, the one who was lying to the, I'm sorry, I just be blunt here this morning. I don't have time to get into niceties. Lying to the American public 5 times on Sunday shows, September 16th, 2012, when she kept fomenting this idea that somehow it was a spontaneous anti-video demonstration in Benghazi that got out of hand somehow and our ambassador was killed. Here's, I think, what she said, and the president as well, fomenting this lie about Benghazi.
Today we mourn for more Americans who represent the very best of the United States of America. We will not waver in our commitment to see that justice is done for this terrible act, and make no mistake, justice will be done.
What this began as was a spontaneous, not a premeditated, response to what had transpired in Cairo. In Cairo, as you know, a few hours earlier, there was a violent protest that was undertaken in reaction to this very offensive video that was disseminated. We believe that folks in Benghazi, a small number of people came to the embassy or to the consulate rather, to replicate the sort of challenge that was posed in Cairo. And then as that unfolded, it seems to have been hijacked, let us say, by some individual clusters of extremists.
Look, I've said it, and I'll say it one more time. No one wants to find out what happened more than I do. We are holding ourselves accountable to the American people, because not only they, but our brave diplomats and development experts serving in dangerous places around the world deserve no less. People have accused Ambassador Rice and the administration of, misleading Americans. I can say, trying to be in the middle of this and understanding what was going on, nothing could be further from the truth.
And we were misled that there were supposedly protests and then something sprang out of that, an assault sprang out of that. And that was easily ascertained that was not the fact. And the American people could have known that within days, and they didn't know that.
With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
It makes this difference, former Secretary of State, Madam Hillary Clinton. It makes this difference. We were attacked by al-Qaeda. Our ambassador and 3 others are dead because you didn't react, because you didn't provide security, because you had your head in the sand about al-Qaeda challenges, and you still want to escape accountability for it. Now, the person who stood up on those 5 Sunday shows, Ambassador Rice, is now going to be the National Security Advisor to the President when she was so uninformed back on September 16th that she perpetuated this myth. Look, in terms of that video in Libya, here's the reality in Libya. If you have a computer in Libya, there is no wireless. There's no Wi-Fi. There's dial-up. You're not watching videos on dial-up. This is a complete hoax about this spontaneous demonstration, okay? So anyway, also in the news today, the Treasury of the United States government has decided to sell 50 million shares of General Motors stock that you and I own. Apparently their investment theory is to buy high and sell low. This is the opposite of what successful people do on Wall Street. In fact, what they're doing is they're selling at a $10 billion loss. $10 billion loss. This is the government that wants to run your health care. That's what they're doing with shares of stock that you and I own after the bankruptcy of Government Motors. Now today, finally, 4 years after Major Nadal Hassan of the United States Army shot and killed 13 people at Fort Hood in an area where they were getting ready to go to overseas to Afghanistan. He was charged in these murders. He was yelling Allah Akbar while he was killing people. And now he has decided that he not only wants to defend himself in this trial, that is cross-examine his victims and that sort of thing. Not only is he going to do that, but Major Nadal Hassan has now said he needs a 3-month delay to prepare yet a new defense. Here's his defense, by the way. His defense is called defense of others. It's in the code. All right, so defense of others is the justification for shooting these Army members. Who are the others he was defending? The Taliban in Afghanistan. This is him talking now. He says, the Taliban, the immediate danger was to Taliban fighters in Afghanistan if the Army was deployed to Afghanistan, so I shot the Army members to defend the lives of the Taliban. It's a guy in our Army. That's his new defense. Amazing. A United States Marine has been kidnapped in Texas, in Los Indios, Texas, on his ranch at gunpoint, his father and his uncle as well, carried off by the drug cartel that's been trying to buy the ranch. The strategy of the drug cartels is to buy these ranches along the border so that they can unimpeded, move into the United States with all of their cargo. The United States Marine has now been kidnapped. We want him back. There's a lot of discussion about this going on. Now, yesterday and the day before at the IRS hearings in Washington, D.C., here's an interesting bit of dialogue between a Democrat, Mr. McDermott, and Paul Ryan, a Republican. McDermott basically blames the Tea Party for all of the harassment they got from the IRS. Watch this.
Our job is to make sure it never happens again. I haven't heard a single word here about what questions you think we ought to be able to ask you about your tax-exempt requests. Anything else like the circus that's happening in the Oversight Committee or here, is simply political theater. It is diverting attention from what we ought to be doing on this committee, is rewriting the law if it's wrong.
I'm going to deviate from my original question in response to what I just heard.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome to Washington.
The committee will be in order. Ryan has the time.
We heard Gingrich, we heard Bush.
Mr. Chairman.
We had the former IRS Commissioner Schulman, who knew about the political targeting long before Congress was told, since implied that the organizations were responsible for the targeting because they chose to apply for tax-exempt status. So you're to blame, I guess, is the message here.
In other words, Mr. McDermott wants the Tea Party profiled by the IRS, doesn't want profiling anywhere else. Can't profile at the airport, mind you. We can't profile in any other way. That would be bad and discrimination. But if we can get after our political opponents in an election year and keep their activity down so that they can't campaign against the president, then that's what we ought to be doing. Betsy, what's her name now? I know her name. Garrettson, Becky Garrettson. One of these Tea Party people, all volunteers who were suppressed with the 460 days or something, and she couldn't get this tax-exempt designation, had this to say. Listen.
Here are the facts of my case. We applied for a 501c4 in October 2010. Our $850 application fee was cashed 7 days later. We received a letter from Robert Cho dated November 2nd, 2010, stating that our application and our user fee payment had been received. It also stated that we should be expecting to hear from someone within 90 days. However, the IRS did not initiate any contact with us for another 459 days.
It's a volunteer, Tea Party volunteer being profiled. Watch her again.
Here as a serf or a vassal, I'm not begging my lords for mercy. I'm a born free American woman, wife, mother, and citizen, and I'm telling my government that you've forgotten your place.
You have forgotten your place, she said. I'm Roger Hedgecock. More of that IRS stuff, more on the Supreme Court and the rulings that are coming up and how they affect you. Stay with us. Back after this.